For the first time in 18 years of blindness, I opened my eyes, only to find my bedmate, my wife, was actually the reigning Empress, and the maid I bullied daily by pinching her cheeks was the world's unparalleled sword immortal. Even scarier, the big yellow dog at home was an ancient monster who had lived for 400,000 years. It was all because the Empress feared I'd be used by schemers. So she sent martial arts masters from all walks to disguise as commoners and protect me. But how could she know I wasn't truly blind? I had sealed my own eyes and spiritual sense willingly. Because, having transmigrated into this book, I awakened the blind sword saint system. Sealing my eyes continuously makes me stronger. I can even draw top-tier rewards from the system. Back when I first went blind and was unaccustomed, plus having zero cultivation, I nearly starved on the streets. That's when I met a young lady from a wealthy family. She claimed the need to fake a marriage to deal with family pressure. She wanted to act with me, to have a sham marriage. Starving to death, I, of course, jumped at the chance. And so, by a twist of fate, I began living a happy life, kept by a rich lady. This day marked the 10th year of my self-sealing. My long silent spiritual suddenly echoed with the system's prompt.
Congratulations, host, for drawing the top-tier reward.
Turns out my luck exploded. I actually drew a divine-grade reward, the heart of the shattering illusion sword. Instantly, a terrifying sword intent was born within me. Just a wisp of its residual power, unintentionally leaked, split the vast sky for 10,000 miles with a giant crack. My heart jumped. Whoa, it can really cleave the heavens. I hurriedly withdrew all my aura. I even warned myself silently in my heart. Not invincible yet. Must stay low-key, lower.
Master, are you all right?
The maid, Nalan Yinran, rushed in anxiously. Her clear eyes were filled with shock and confusion. What could possibly be wrong with your awesome, cool, sky-shattering master? I said, while casually pinching her soft, bouncy cheek. My fingertips felt the familiar, delicate texture. Seeing her like this, a sudden whim struck me. An idea popped into my head. Yinran, do you want to learn a sword? Nalan Yinran, covering her flushed cheeks, nodded hesitantly.
I want to learn. I want to protect Madam and Master.
Hearing her, I put on a profound air, clasping my hands behind my back. My face fittingly showed a reminiscent expression, but in my heart, I found the scene a bit amusing. I cleared my throat and began to fabricate. Once an old beggar told me my bones were extraordinary, a one-in-a-million martial arts prodigy. He insisted on passing down a sword scripture to me. He even boasted he was some sword path champion, spouting nonsense about the heavens missing this or that, and a sword path enduring for eons or something. At the time, I figured he was just a scammer. I flipped through it, then used the book as a table wedge. Put some insights on swordsmanship in it. Were actually interesting. I'll share them with you today. At first, Nalan Yinran probably just humored me, pretending to be interested. But as I shared those half-true, half-false profound insights from the system, her breathing grew rapid without her noticing. Her eyes even lit up, with the clear light of sudden enlightenment. Then, dense sword intent began swirling around her, even condensing into clusters of swaying red spider lilies. Moments later, she jolted, breaking through a bottleneck, into the first-rank chi condensation realm. Shockwaves surged in Nalan Yinran's heart. The look she gave me held unprecedented awe. She thought secretly,
The Emperor truly is unfathomable. A casual pointer has such divine effect.
unaware, I'd inadvertently created a top-tier expert. I just stretched lazily, while minding other things, mumbling about going out to buy groceries. Then, I strolled leisurely out the door. This seemingly ordinary village I'm in is actually the rebuilt Great Wei Dynasty's core Lingxiao Hall. Prime Minister Zheng Zhuzhong, disguised as the village chief, was gazing worriedly at the sky's rift. Seeing me approach slowly with my blind man's cane, he quickly hid his concerned expression, greeting me with an enthusiastic smile instead. I suddenly remembered the sinew-shifting bone hand the system rewarded never tried its effect. Here was a ready test subject. The thought sparked. Without a word, I raised my hand and smacked it right onto this chief counselor's face. Then I started groping around randomly. Zheng Zhuzhong's veins bulged in fury on the spot. High-ranking, second only to the emperor, respected by all. When had he ever suffered such public face-groping humiliation? You old man, your destiny is extraordinary. Why not become a famed prime minister, achieving glory? Why are you hiding here as a mere village chief? I said, and I became even more aggressive. I directly grabbed his nose to lecture him. Look for your own reasons more. All these years, have you worked seriously? Has your salary increased? Also, I see your forehead is dark. You're bound to have a bloody disaster soon. The general pretending to sell charcoal next door finally couldn't hold back, laughing so hard he was out of breath.
The chief minister, who usually dominates the court, was now being lectured by a blind man holding his nose. This scene was just too beautiful.
Just then, the female emperor in a red dress, Mei Dushao, walked gracefully over. She had just heard Nalan Yinran's report, and became very curious about me. She specifically came to see for herself, and I had already moved. to the vegetable stall next door. The stall owner was planning a rebellion. The northern border prince's son, Wang Chan. Boss, do you have onions? He was upset because of the strange phenomenon in the sky earlier, and the rebellious thoughts in his heart.
Are you blind? Can't you see for yourself?
Indeed. Wang Chan looked up at the sound and saw it was me. His face instantly turned as black as a pot bottom. He had long dreamed of occupying the female emperor after a successful rebellion, and had long regarded me as the enemy who took away his hatred. So he casually threw the vegetables on the stall, ready to teach me a lesson. But then he heard me suddenly speak leisurely. Brother, from your accent, you're from the northern border, right? Listen to my advice. Quickly bring your wife and children out. Don't stay in that place.
Why?
The northern border prince is going to rebel. His good-for-nothing son has secretly entered the capital, preparing to cause internal chaos. Probably before long, they will end up with the whole family being executed. As soon as these words came out, Wang Chan was struck as if by lightning. His face changed drastically. He was horrified in his heart. He hadn't even started his plan yet. How'd I, a blind man, know? He stared at me with a murderous look.
How do you know?
I smiled mysteriously, patted his shoulder lightly and calmly. As a blind man, it's reasonable to know fortune-telling, right? Wang Chan was so angry he almost spat out blood. He was about to curse loudly, but his voice suddenly stopped, because he saw that female emperor dressed in plain clothes, but with overwhelming majesty, walking gracefully over. Why are you here? I turned my head towards that familiar presence, and smiled gently. Although everything before my eyes was dark, I knew she had come. Mei Dushai's beautiful eyes looked at me with a half-smile, then swept a glance around. Wang Chan, sweating cold sweat, said casually,
"Just taking a walk. I overheard you talking about the Northern Frontier Prince's rebellion plot. I'm also very interested to hear."
In an instant, the once bustling and noisy market fell into a deathly silence. The onlookers were horrified. This blind man is fearless in his ignorance, daring to discuss such a capital offense as a prince's treason in public. A collective gasp echoed through the market. I, however, shook my head nonchalantly and spoke with an air of seriousness, as if discussing the weather. This is no idle talk. 3 years ago, when the Empress ascended the throne, the Northern Frontier Prince, Wang Yuan, began secretly amassing troops, expanding his power, and recruiting desperados on a large scale. His ambition has long been an open secret. Now his son, Wang Chan, has personally led elite assassins to infiltrate the capital, just waiting for internal turmoil. The Northern Frontier's million-strong army will march straight for the imperial capital. As the words fell, the surroundings were so quiet that it seemed you could hear a pin drop. Wang Chan was completely numb. The terror within him completely overwhelmed his anger. He simply couldn't believe it. Could this blind man have some kind of all-seeing map hack? His meticulously planned, supposedly flawless secret scheme, years in the making, was being laid bare by him as casually as chatting about daily life.
Do you have proof?
Mei Dushai's tone turned serious, her voice carrying a hint of barely perceptible chill. I immediately put on a righteous and awe-inspiring demeanor and declared loudly, "To protect the peace of the village, I will calculate it for you right here, right now." With that, I pretended to make calculations with my fingers. Then I stated with conviction, the assassins led by Wang Chan are undoubtedly hiding within the residence of the Chief Minister of State at this very moment, and he is preparing to create a bloody disaster. Zhang Jiuzhong, the Chief Minister, who was playing the village chief, instantly turned ashen-faced, inwardly cursing his luck. Is this blind man's mouth blessed? How'd he get it right again? Empress Mei Dushai gave a look. The Imperial Guard commander, disguised as a wine vendor, instantly vanished. A moment later, a secret report came back.
The information is accurate. Assassins were indeed found hiding in the Chief Minister's residence.
Wang Chan's psychological defenses completely crumbled. He was like a dead fish, dragged away in disgrace by the Imperial Guard, his spiritual power sealed. As he was taken away, the look he gave me was full of venomous hatred, as if he wished to devour me alive. But I was lost in the joy of doing good deeds every day. I even called out kindly to his retreating figure as he was dragged away. "Buddy, listen to me. Go get your wife and kids out of there to safety." Meeting me was your lucky day. That made Wang Chan so angry. He spat a mouthful of blood and passed out on the spot. The next day, I was lounging on a bamboo chair, enjoying the cool air, when a system's notification chimed in my ear. Successfully suppressed, the chosen one, Wang Chan, reduced his fortune by 600 points. Reward issued: heaven-grade spirit herb, netherworld soul-devouring flower, and 100 caddies of immortal grey dog food. With a thought, that rare heaven-grade spirit herb landed in my hand. It could cure the Empress's long-standing chill ailment. But I thought to myself, I wasn't planning to give it to the Empress just yet. After all, she's an outsider, not as important as my own wife. My wife is just an ordinary person. This medicine could extend her life by at least 100 years. I plucked the soul flower, crushed it, and tossed it into the soul refining cauldron. brewing a bowl of porridge that looked ordinary but was brimming with spiritual energy.
Husband, missing me after just half a moment?
The courtyard gate creaked open gently. Meidusha walked in with a faint smile on her face. Today she wore only simple, everyday clothes, yet couldn't hide her noble air. I had already sensed her arrival. A smile immediately spread across my face. Holding a bowl of warm porridge, I went to greet her, saying cheerfully, "Come, have some porridge to refresh yourself." The morning sun shone softly in our little courtyard. This simple scene was like that of an ordinary couple, yet it held a moving warmth. Meidusha clearly paused for a moment. As the decisive empress who held the power of life and death, she was long accustomed to schemes and the coldness of the court. Now, looking at her blind husband before her, with his unreserved smile, her heart seemed to be gently struck by something. Ripples stirred within. She said nothing silently, taking the porridge and taking a sip. Then, her cool eyes suddenly widened, revealing an expression of disbelief and shock.
This taste, it's the netherworld soul-devouring flower.
The divine medicine she had sought for years without success was now by this man, infused into a bowl of ordinary plain porridge, and so simply, so plainly handed to her. A gentle warmth spread through her limbs with the porridge. The chill that had plagued her for years, which countless imperial physicians had. The helpless cold illness melted away in an instant. I naturally took out a handkerchief, reached out, and gently wiped away a bit of porridge residue from the corner of her mouth. At that moment, her mind went completely blank. All the tactics for controlling ministers, all the lofty imperial majesty, seemed to crumble before this simple, utmost gentleness. She stared at me, as if driven by some invisible force to speak.
The Su family has served as officials for generations. If I wanted you to serve Her Majesty, would you be willing?
No, I refused cleanly and decisively. Meidusha's beautiful eyes widened, inexplicably annoyed, thinking,
Am I some beast? You actually reject me like this?
With that, she set the bowl down on the stone table beside her, making as if to brush her sleeves and leave. Before I could figure out why a woman's heart is so unpredictable, a sharp, piercing voice suddenly echoed through the entire village. The emperor has arrived. Su Fengyan, the commoner, come forth to meet the emperor. I jolted and jumped up from the bamboo chair. What? The emperor? Could it be that my divine prophecy at the market reached the empress's ears so quickly? Did she come personally to recruit me? The maid, Nalan Yen, ran, her face flushed, ran into the courtyard panting heavily, deliberately putting on a show with a strained voice.
Master, the emperor is here. Come out quickly.
I was dragged outside by her. Before I, the blind man, could fumble to kneel down, a hand steadied me firmly. On the jade carriage, the pearl curtain and the imperial crown swayed gently in the wind. Meidusha was lazily reclining on the imperial throne. A slight curve lifted the corner of her mouth. Looking down at me, she said in a teasing voice,
Sir, there is no need for such formalities. I have come specifically this time to invite you to serve as an official in the court.
I thank your majesty for your great favor, but this humble commoner is of shallow talent and learning, and I fear I am unfit for such an important court position. Hearing this, Meidusha was not angered. She merely glanced faintly at Nalan Yen, ran beside her. Nalan Yen ran immediately understood. Stepping forward, she lowered her voice and whispered in my ear,
Master, don't be so stubborn. Since Her Majesty has come in person, she is determined to take you with her today. Moreover, your wife has already left for the capital. She won't be back for a while. Don't you want to see her sooner?
Hearing that my wife had gone to the capital, I thought for a long time and finally sighed. If that's the case, this humble commoner is willing to serve your majesty with utmost loyalty.
If I don't strip away this disguise of yours, I really can't handle you. I insist on taking you by force. Your resistance only makes it more interesting for me. The more you resist, the more I enjoy it.
The next day, in the Golden Lawn Hall, the Empress sat high on the dragon throne. Her voice was cold and decisive as she announced,
Minister Su, with your exceptional talent, I have decided to promote you to Vice Minister of Rights. Does anyone object?
The entire court exchanged glances, and for a moment, no one spoke. The king of Shiliang, Xia Ho Yuan, snorted arrogantly and questioned,
Your Majesty, a commoner from the wilderness. And a blind one at that. How is he worthy of such a high position?
Though I couldn't see his mocking expression, I could clearly feel the malice directed at me. Mock me? You really picked the wrong person to mess with. I smirked inwardly, while quickly searching my mind for the list of future villains in the Wei Kingdom. Since I need to establish my authority, I'll start with you. So I cut him off and said leisurely, The king of Shiliang, in order to break through his cultivation bottleneck, resorted to practicing a forbidden and evil art that harms heaven and reason. He poisoned 100,000 innocent people to perform an evil ritual. Such actions are utterly inhumane and devoid of conscience. I have a demon summoning curse that can reveal this villain's true form. Without waiting for anyone to react, I immediately chanted a string of mysterious incantations. To everyone's surprise, the once elegant and dignified Xiahou Yuan suddenly twisted his face into a hideous grimace. From beneath his skin, faint cries of countless wronged souls could be heard, as if they were about to tear through his body and tear him apart. The Empress slammed the table and stood up, her killing intent sharp. All the ministers in the hall were shocked and terrified. Could this blind man truly be an omniscient sage? At that moment, a young civil official muttered defiantly, thinking I must have investigated beforehand, and that there was no such thing as peering into the heavens. So I turned in his direction and said slowly, "Oh, then let me also calculate for you. If I'm not mistaken, the third-place scholar in the imperial exams 3 years ago achieved his position through fraud. Your father, to bribe the chief examiner, worried he might forget the favor. Even carved your childhood nickname, Dog Egg, on the heavenly grade spirit whip given as a bribe." The official's face instantly turned ashen, his legs gave way, and he collapsed to the ground with a thud, then was dragged out like a dead dog by the expressionless imperial guards. Taking advantage of the quiet in the hall, I cleared my throat lightly, swaggered up to Chief Minister Zhang Juzhong, and reached out to feel his old face. Zhang Juzhong endured the familiar, yet torturous touch, so mortified I wanted to die on the spot. Then I spoke with a serious face. "Lord Chief Minister, in my hometown, there's a village chief named Zhang Juzhua. His birth date and fate are exactly the same as yours. I strongly suspect he's your long-lost brother." Zhang Juzhong's old face twitched, thinking of his doppelganger. Now he had to endure his colleague's strange looks, and against his conscience, admit he had such an elder brother. The ministers stirred, gossip about illegitimate sons spreading like wildfire. Zhang Juzhong felt like crying, but had no tears. Deeply feeling his lifelong reputation was ruined in an instant. He then looked resentfully at the Empress on the dragon throne. The Empress, somewhat guilty, waved her hand, dismissed if there's nothing else. I was just about to slip away home to laze around, when the Empress suddenly called out to stop me. "My dear minister, you have no fixed residence in the capital yet. Why not follow me into the palace to stay? It would be more convenient." I was a bit surprised. According to the book's records, this Empress was known for being cold and aloof. Why is she so warm to me? But I cupped my hands and politely declined. "Thank you for your kindness, your majesty, but my wife is waiting at home. I fear she'll worry if I return late." The Empress savored the words "my wife," a strange ripple stirring in her heart.
You like your wife very much?
I took a deep breath and brought out cheesy lines from my past life. "In this fleeting world, I love 3 things. The sun, the moon, and you. The sun for morning, the moon for night, and you forever." Meidusha's face instantly turned bright red. She had never heard such direct and passionate confession before. For a moment, her heart pounded like a deer, too shy to know what to do. She suddenly blurted out,
"I think what you said is very good."
As soon as the words left her mouth, she covered it, thinking,
"Oh no."
Then she simply turned and fled in panic. I was left scratching my head, puzzled, and returned to my new mansion in the capital. Just as I entered, a familiar fragrant breeze greeted me. "Wife, why are you out here?" Meidusha's pretty face flushed slightly. She answered in a voice as soft as a mosquito's hum. I was in a good mood, hands behind my back, strolling leisurely in the newly acquired spacious courtyard. My heart was full of emotion. Not bad, not bad. Now we have a house and a career in the capital. But who would have thought from some corner? An old mutt suddenly charged out, barking wildly at me. "Shoo! Shoo! No sense at all. Can't you see the master of the house is back?" I gave a fake kick, trying to shoo it away, muttering, "The great way's divine guardian beast, the blazing sky Chilin, rolled on the ground 2.5 times. Then the whole dog was stunned. It, a divine being, was mistaken by this blind fool for a common watchdog. Furious, it bared its fangs, eyes gleaming with malice, ready to pounce and bite. I sensed a faint, dangerous aura approaching. Without a second thought, I released a wisp of the shattering delusion sword-hard intent. The old mutt instantly bristled, every hair on its body standing on end. Crushed by that supreme, annihilating sword intent, its soul nearly fled in terror. So, it immediately performed an attitude adjustment. A complete 180-degree turn, becoming obedient in a second. It started wagging its tail like crazy. It even came over and fawningly licked my pant leg. Only then did I smile with satisfaction and reach out to pat its head. Really, if you've been like this from the start, why suffer for nothing? Nalan Yinran, watching from the side, was utterly dumbfounded. This divine beast is even more obsequious than a real dog. The next morning, early, I quickly planted all the treasures the system just gave me in the courtyard. Then I took out the celestial-grade dog food and poured it into a bowl. Wonkai, chow time! The blazing sky Chilin was immediately displeased. Back in the day, it followed the founding emperor, sweeping across the world. Even now, with its cultivation crippled and turned into a dog, it couldn't possibly eat this lousy dog food and suffer such humiliation. Wonkai would starve to death before touching a bite. But who could have guessed, the very next second, I reached out and shoved its head right into the bowl. An alluring fragrance instantly overwhelmed its senses. This was no ordinary dog food. This was clearly the legendary chaos primordial marrow, priceless and capable of nourishing a divine beast's origin. It froze for a second, then it plunged its head in and started devouring it like crazy. Its tail wagged like a fan. Dang, that's good. Just then, the two girls pushed the door open and came out. Unexpectedly, they saw the soul-devouring nether flower in their own courtyard, the heavenly sound mystic tang, and the black tortoise heart-guarding vine. Nalan Yinran rubbed her eyes, thinking she wasn't awake yet. Mei Dusha's legs went weak beneath her, nearly tripping on flat ground. What made jaws drop even more was that the nation-guarding divine beast she revered like a god was actually chained up with a dog leash. At that moment, acting like it hadn't eaten for lifetimes. It had its head buried in a dog bowl, wolfing down food. The blazing sky, Qilin, lay sprawled on the ground, tongue lolling. Its once majestic dog face now wore a completely fawning expression. Seeing this, Nalan Yinran quickly snatched that lousy dog bowl and tossed it aside. She pulled out a piece of spiritual beast meat, brimming with aura from her storage ring. Divine Lord, you are our nation's treasure. How can you eat this trash feed? This is the top-grade spiritual meat specially supplied from the ranch for you. As she spoke, she went to undo the leash. Unexpectedly, the old mutt glanced sideways at that spiritual meat others would fight over, cursing inwardly. This trash isn't even enough to get stuck in my teeth. It's nowhere near as fragrant as that bowl. Under Nalan Yinran's stunned gaze, Wonkai used its own paw to slip the leash back around its neck. Then it wiggled its butt over to my feet, its tail wagging so fast it could take off. It whimpered coquettishly in its throat. Sufingyan, what kind of love potion did you give Wonkai? Mei Dusha walked down the steps, her eyes full of question marks. She couldn't understand why this divine beast, blessed with both Qilin and dragon bloodlines, a national treasure even in dog form, had completely lost all its dignity in just one day. Nothing much. Maybe I have experience raising dogs back home. All the village dogs are tight with me. It probably just likes my vibe. I laughed and expertly rubbed its head. Mei Dusha's mouth twitched, but she couldn't reveal the divine lord's identity. She had to swallow her doubts and turn to look at the yard. Pointing at the glowing plants, she asked sternly, "And these spirit herbs? They can't just like your vibe too, can they?" I'd already prepared a fib. What spirit herbs? Those aren't spirit herbs. An old man with a white beard was selling vegetables at the gate this morning. Felt sorry for his age, so I bought them all and planted them on a whim. You won't blame me for wasting money, will you, dear? Mei Dusha looked at the few plants, worth half the capital. Nether, soul-devouring flowers, and heavenly melody blossoms, her head throbbing. This wasn't a vegetable seller. This was the god of wealth descending. But remembering she had her own secrets, she didn't press further. After breakfast, Mei Dusha said she had official business and hurried off. Nalan Yinran stayed behind, saying she'd accompany me to the Ministry of Rites. Master, the court robes sent from the palace yesterday. Would you like to try them on? Nalan Yinran peeked out from behind the door. In her arms was an official robe embroidered with a third-rank coiling dragon pattern. How to be formal when meeting the boss. We the cautious ones keep a low profile, but face is still important. I nodded in agreement. Nalan Yinran seemed to have fully adapted to her maid role. She carefully helped me undress. Her hands, usually gripping a sword, were now soft. Only, her fingertips accidentally brushed against my chest. This made the usually aloof and icy sword immortal instantly blush and pull her hand back as if shocked. I'll do it myself. I'm not used to being served. Nalan Yinran firmly refused. For some reason, she was unusually persistent today. Even though her face was as hot as boiling water, she still fumbled clumsily, straightening the collar. A full hour later, she finally let out a sigh of relief. Her forehead was beaded with sweat. I picked up my blind man's cane, felt the crisp fabric of the robe, and smiled. Let's go. Off to the Prime Minister's residence. Walking down the street, my ears were filled with all sorts of gossip. Have you heard? The Empress's new favorite is blind. A third-rank minister. TSK. If the real Emperor consort finds out, he's probably going to flip the roof in anger. Nalan Yinran, wearing a bamboo hat, listened to these absurd discussions, rolling her eyes so hard they almost reached the top of her head. These ordinary folks have no idea. The so-called new favorite and the Emperor are actually the same person. But who could have imagined that beneath the prosperity of the capital, a murderous intent was quietly emerging? In a pitch-black cave outside the city, Wang Chan suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes terrifyingly sinister. The avatar he had spent countless resources to create was seen through and destroyed by that blind man with just a glance. This made him feel a threat he had never encountered before. Sufingyan, you're looking for death. Gritting his teeth, he opened the communication tablet. A flicker of light. A woman in a purple dress, with a bewitching figure, slowly appeared. Her snake-like waist and snow-white skin looked especially alluring under the candlelight, her gaze full of seduction. Feng Ming, kill someone for me. The Great Wei Emperor, Su Fengyan. After it's done, I'll ensure you reunite with your brother. The woman named Feng Ming looked excited, her voice trembling as she accepted the order. After closing the communication, a cruel smile appeared on Wang Chan's face. What a pity. That so-called brother had already perished in an experiment. At this moment, I was completely unaware of all this. I had already entered Chief Minister Zhang Juzhong's study. This humble official greets the Chief Minister. Just as I was about to bow, Zhang Juzhong jumped up as if he'd seen a ghost and hurriedly stopped me. His smile was uglier than a grimace. Vice Minister, no need for formalities. Please have a seat. He was desperately wishing this harbinger of doom would just leave. I was quite happy to oblige and sat down with a smile. I've just arrived. If there's any work, please feel free to assign it, Minister. I'm so bored I have nothing to do. Zhang Juzhong shook his head like a rattledrum, thinking to himself, who would dare to order you around, old man? Just as I was about to take my leave and go, a faint fragrance wafted over. Wait, my lord, don't leave yet. Let this humble girl have a word with you. An extremely enchanting-looking woman slowly walked out. Her delicate, pale fingers lightly rested on my shoulder. Her fingertips brushed against my chest, almost imperceptibly. Her voice was so sweet, it could melt bones. This woman was the assassin Feng Ming, using the alias Wu Ming. She was confident that with her seductive skills, dealing with a blind man without cultivation would be a piece of cake. I frowned and subtly took a step back, tried to avoid this sudden harassment. But no matter how I moved, that soft hand always followed me. May I ask who you are? This humble girl is Wu Ming, a 6th-rank secretary in the Ministry of Rights. Feng Ming gave a faint smile, her eyes shimmering with allure. Zhang Juzhong, watching from the side, felt his eyebrows twitch, his heart skipping a beat. This girl has some nerve. In broad daylight, she dares to flirt with the Empress's man. You got a death wish. Nalan Yanran's face was already as cold as ice, her hand trembling slightly as she gripped her sword. A faint glint of lightning flickered in her eyes. Just as I was about to snap, Feng Ming suddenly let go. She retreated gracefully to a safe distance. This push and pull is what drives young fools wild. But she miscalculated. I may be blind, but I'm not stupid. I took a subtle step back, alarms blaring in my head. First, she gets handsy, then pretends to be coy and retreats. This is textbook green tea tactics. Sure enough, Feng Ming immediately put on a professional face and looked at Zhang Juzhong. Prime Minister, it wouldn't look good if word got out that the new Vice Minister is idle on his first day. Earlier, you mentioned the Emperor's birthday banquet. Perhaps I could assist the Vice Minister with the preparations. It sounded reasonable on the surface, like she cared about my career, but it was pressure step by step. I sighed inwardly. The most cunning schemes are always wrapped in for your own good. Zhang Juzhong wouldn't dare make decisions for the real Emperor, but faced with my calm expression, he could only smile helplessly. All right, let's do as you suggest. Just like that, the thankless task of organizing the birthday banquet landed on my head. I really wanted to knock this woman out with my cane, but I could only maintain the dignity of the Ministry of Rights and nod in agreement. We left the Prime Minister's residence and walked down the street, the three of us. The atmosphere was unbearably tense. Feng Ming's voice was cheerful, tinkling like a silver bell. Vice Minister, the Emperor's birthday is in just 7 days. How about we find a quiet place to talk through the night and discuss the banquet details? As she spoke, her gaze was sharp as a knife. Sweeping over the icy Nalan Yin ran beside her. She frowned, thinking to herself, this maid's cultivation is unfathomable. If I need to act, I must find a way to get rid of her first. Nalan Yin turned her head, her eyes as cold as a 1,000-year glacier. Feng Ming smiled sweetly, glaring back without backing down. Their eyes met, sparks practically flying in the air between them. Walking between them, I pretended not to notice the tension. I just tapped my blind man's cane and sighed. The world is vast, but a full stomach comes first. Let's talk after I've eaten. Perfect timing. I've just arrived in the capital and don't even have a place to stay. Would I be so fortunate as to taste the cooking of the Vice Minister? Feng Ming, determined to stick to me, immediately put on a soft, coquettish act. Nalan Yin interjected coldly. Out of the question. The Vice Minister already has a wife at home. Please restrain yourself. It's just a meal. I'm not after anything else. Miss Yin, you're just a maid, yet you're so controlling. Anyone would think you're the Vice Minister's wife. Feng Ming blinked her big, watery eyes innocently and said, listening to the increasingly out-of-control conversation, I quickly reached out to pull her away, afraid these two beauties would start a fight right on the street. I'm just a live-in son-in-law. My wife calls all the shots at home. Follow if you want. See if my wife is willing to keep you. Son-in-law. Feng Ming froze on the spot. She never imagined this new favor of the court. This high-ranking official of the 3rd rank was actually kept man. Nalan Yanran looked unhappy, wanted to speak but holding back. It's fine, Yanran. Let's go. I waved my hand dismissively. But Feng Ming, who was deep in thought, jolted upon hearing Yanran. Her eyes narrowed sharply at the name, staring intently at the sword-carrying, somewhat reserved maidservant. She's the renowned cold and aloof sword immortal. serving as a maid for a blind man. Soon, we were back at the manor. In the courtyard, a woman in married women's attire, wearing an apron, was bringing out steaming dishes from the kitchen. Perfect timing. Wash up and eat. Maid Dusha gave me a gentle smile, but her gaze quickly landed on the alluring Feng Ming. Her brow lifted slightly, with a hint of scrutiny. Who's this? A colleague. Here for a free meal. I answered casually. A flicker of imperceptible displeasure passed through Maid Dusha's eyes. But as the lady of the house, she smiled graciously. All right, but Feng Ming, at that moment, looked as if struck by lightning. Her mind was in turmoil. That innate, bone-deep imperial aura made her legs go weak. The Empress, the supposedly merciless demon sect assassin, now sat there fidgeting uneasily. Feng Ming opened her mouth, almost crying out. Maid Dusha quickly raised a finger to her lips, giving a warning glare, then pointed at me beside her. Feng Ming immediately understood, nodding frantically. She quickly shut her mouth and looked at the dishes on the table. To eat a meal cooked by the Empress herself. Such an honor is worth losing my head over tomorrow. Happily, she picked up a piece of fish and put it in her mouth. Bitter, spicy, salty, fishy. 4 flavors exploded on her tongue. Feng Ming's vision went dark. She nearly spat it out on the spot. What is this? Poison. Covering her mouth, she glanced around furtively, only to see me and Nalan Yenran also stiff-necked, swallowing with complex expressions. Is it bad? Noticing the awkward atmosphere, Maid Dusha asked expectantly. Terrible, I nodded honestly. Delicious. Feng Ming immediately gave a thumbs up, survival instinct kicking in. I think it's okay. Nalan Ran silently picked up the tea to rinse her mouth, lying through her teeth. Maid Dusha nodded, then glanced over at Feng Ming's devilish figure. Her gaze lingered on the girl's ample chest, and she pushed the whole plate of fish over. If it's good, eat more. Feng Ming's smile froze on her face. She closed her eyes, tears streaming. She forced down the entire plate, as if swallowing hot coals. When she opened her eyes, she thought she saw her late great-grandma waving at her. Look at you eating so fast. Slow down, there's more here. Maid Dusha smiled meaningfully and pushed over a few more dishes. Feng Ming covered her mouth, gagging. She was almost drooling. I couldn't watch any longer. I picked up the dish and stood. Let me fix this for you. It's my first time cooking after all. Don't you dare waste it. Maid Dusha's words unconsciously carried an imperial, commanding tone. I smiled gently. You're mistaken, Your Majesty. I'm just tweaking the details on your foundation. How can that be called waste? It's like the Emperor drafts the Empire's blueprint. The ministers make refinements. That's called helping each other. Without your start, how could I add the finishing touches? The courtyard fell into a terrifying silence. The Empress said nothing. The aloof, sword immortal's chopsticks clattered to the ground. Even the seductive assassin was stunned. Was this a confession? These sweet nothings were sweeter than honey. Feng Ming stole a glance. To her horror, she saw the Empress, who killed without blinking. Her milky white earlobes flushed crimson. Smooth. So smooth. Nalan Yenran quickly pulled out her little notebook. Muttering to herself, she recorded this Emperor's flirtation playbook excerpt. Even if the Empress was peerless in governance and martial arts, in the face of such tender affection, she was ultimately just a young girl who'd never been in love. Soon, I returned with the remade dishes. Maid Dusha quickly picked up a slice of meat and elegantly placed it in her mouth. An unprecedented, exquisite flavor exploded on her tongue. Her body gave a slight tremble. Her phoenix eyes filled with a novel, bright delight. You were right. It is delicious, she beamed. It was the first time since becoming Empress. She'd shown such a pure, moving smile. Then eat more. I smiled, adding another piece of meat to her bowl. Or was the Empress's usual, supreme dignity now? 2 playful little fangs sparkled in the sunlight. Her almond eyes shimmered, actually showing a hint of girlish charm. Of course, I haven't had enough yet. Beside them, Nalan Yenran sneered inwardly, her chopsticks untouched for a long while. She'd barely eaten, but she was already full of dog food. It seemed the Empress was truly smitten this time. Half an hour later, Maid Dusha finally left, reluctantly. Rushing back to the palace to handle mountains of state affairs, Minister, we need to discuss the banquet arrangements. As soon as the Empress left, Feng Ming hurried over to urge me. A strange light flickered in his eyes. I said there was no rush and patted my clothes. Getting up, I reached for the leash nearby. Wonkai, let's go for a walk. The old dog, the blazing Kirin, let out a muffled whine. Once a revered divine beast of a nation, it was now reduced to being leashed for a stroll. It flopped onto the stone floor, refusing to budge. I tugged the leash, but it wouldn't move. I gave its rump an unceremonious kick. Get up, go outside to do your business. Do it here, in your stew tonight. The old dog's temple throbbed with fury. This venerable one is a divine beast. I don't need to do that. It was about to rage when I drawled. I'll count to 3. If you're not up, no more special dog food. Ever. Instantly, the once proud divine beast sprang up, tail wagging furiously. A fawn licking my pant leg. What's dignity? Being a bootlicker for gourmet kibble is actually pretty sweet. Satisfied, I led Wonkai out. Nalan Yenran and Feng Ming exchanged a look. They had no choice but to follow. Meanwhile, Grand General Su Motion of Great Way was rushing into the capital, frantic. Those traitors have some nerve. Su Motion's face was livid. He'd been on a secret border inspection. Shockingly, nearly half the commanders had already secretly defected to the rebel Wang Yuan. Still in his armor, he drafted a secret report on horseback, ordering his trusted aide to deliver it to the Empress immediately. After that, he decided to visit Su Fengyan first. He hoped this prophesied sage held the key to crushing Wang Yuan for good. As Su Motion passed a street corner, he spotted me. I was holding the leash, grumbling at a crooked tree. Just pee already. We've been walking forever. What's the holdup? The blazing Kirin looked around. No one familiar in sight. Nalanyan ran wouldn't blab. Resigned, it shut its eyes and expertly lifted a hind leg, just as it was about to enjoy the relief. That familiar voice, Su Fengyan, struck the old dog like a thunderbolt, freezing it solid. Its eyes went wide, but the momentum was too great. It couldn't stop. It could only turn its head mechanically, its doggy's soul having fled. As it continued, Su Motion locked eyes with it and froze. He even rubbed his eyes, doubting himself, wondering if the borderland sandstorm had left him dazed. That was the blazing Qilin, guardian of the Great Way for a century. Now it's squatting by the roadside like a stray dog, peeing. The old mutt quickly retracted its leg, its gaze as indifferent as an enlightened Buddha. Years of camaraderie were utterly washed away by that one piss. Noticing someone approaching, I smiled and patted their shoulder. Old blacksmith, what brings you to the capital? Come on, let me buy you a few drinks. Su Motion's face twitched as he forced a dry laugh. I'm here visiting relatives. Beside him, Feng Ming was wide-eyed, frozen stiff. That was General Su, who once annihilated 6 kingdoms in a single war. The foremost martial expert of the Great Way dynasty. How could he be so submissive before Su Fengyan? Is Su Fengyan some hidden sword saint? Nalan Yenran quickly tugged my sleeve, whispering a reminder. Master, don't forget the main event, the birthday banquet. Right. I smacked my forehead, a bit embarrassed, and said to Su Motion, unfortunately, I have some business to attend to today. Brother Su, another day, I'll definitely drink with you until we drop. With that, I tugged the dog leash and started back. But just then, a crisp system notification suddenly exploded in my ears. Successfully suppressed the fated protagonist, Wang Chan. Reduced his luck value by 800 points. Reward, immortal grade technique. 1 chi transforms into 3 pure ones. Reward, 20 years of pure cultivation experience. Instantly, the spiritual energy within me boiled over, rushing wildly through my meridians. Immediately after, I directly broke through to the late-stage condensed spirit realm. That feeling of power, 1 finger to pierce the heavens, 1 sword to cleave through a horde of demons. What delighted me even more was that immortal grade technique, which could split into 3 avatars with 60% of my original strength, all sharing a mental connection. Truly a generous gift from that walking piggy bank, Wang Chan. Back in the courtyard, Feng Ming and I sat facing each other under the peach tree, discussing the banquet. Meanwhile, outside the city, Wang Chan had just learned his inside man at the border was taken out, his face twisted in rage. It's all that damn blind man's fault. Panting heavily, he pulled out a bizarre, double-pupiled eyeball from his chest. An artifact from an ancient mighty one. Once marked, nothing can hide. He sneered, activating the secret art as a light screen slowly brightened. He wanted to see if Feng Ming, whom he had threatened with her brother's life, had managed to gather any intelligence. But the scene in the image struck him like a thunderbolt. In a courtyard with drifting peach blossoms, Feng Ming sat with her chin in her hands, her large, dewy eyes fixed intently on the handsome young man with black silk binding his eyes. Sir, what gift are you preparing for the Empress's birthday banquet? Her voice is so sweet and delicate, not a trace of a killer's demeanor remains. Haven't decided yet. The young man smiled gently, like a spring breeze. Sir, your dog is so well behaved. How'd you train it? If it doesn't obey, it doesn't get fed. The two chatted back and forth. The peach blossom petals drift by, the sweetness almost overflowing the screen. In the scene, Feng Ming's eyes were fixed, staring straight ahead. Utterly a woman lost in love. Flirting with her lover right now. Wang Chan spat out a mouthful of blood. His vision went dark, nearly dying from rage on the spot. His painstakingly cultivated ace was actually throwing herself at his archenemy right in front of him. Wang Chan watched the amorous scene on the light screen, trembling with fury. He toppled straight backward, knocking over the screen behind him. Feng Ming would never dare betray me. There must be something else going on. He struggled to stand, forcing a strained, cold smile. But his eyes were dark and gloomy, as if they could drip water. Right? She must be trying to seduce Su Fengyan, attempting to break through his defenses this way. But this flimsy excuse, even he found ridiculous. There are no outsiders in this mansion. What's the point of seduction? Just finish him off with one strike. Meanwhile, under the peach tree, Feng Ming still rested her chin in her hand. Her captivating eyes were full of anticipation. Sir, how do you think the Empress's birthday banquet should be arranged? I couldn't help but laugh. This seems very simple to me. To put it plainly, it's just a large-scale company team-building event. First, announce it to the world, signifying universal celebration. Then invite dignitaries and important figures from all sides for a banquet. After the meal, arrange some entertainment. Everyone lines up to present gifts, ending with a martial arts tournament. Poetry, songs, dancing, opera. Run through them all. Done. I casually took out a prepared jade slip and handed it to her. Just follow the plan on it. Feng Ming received the jade slip as if it were a treasure. Pressing it to her forehead, she examined it carefully, exclaiming in awe, "Sir, you are brilliant. Such arrangements are truly unprecedented." While praising, she used the moment of lowering her head to repeatedly cast affectionate, flirtatious glances at me. Yet these glances, enough to melt an ordinary man's bones, had absolutely no effect on me, a blind man. Feng Ming rubbed her sore eyes from frequent blinking. A wave of bitterness rose in her heart. This is truly casting amorous glances at a blind man. I stroked my blind man's cane, frowning slightly. In the original plot, there was no personal maid named Feng Ming, but there was a famous, renowned assassin also named Feng Ming. Feng Ming, what do you think of the heir, Wang Chan? I casually tested the waters. Feng Ming was startled at first, then sneered, her tone icy cold. A proud and arrogant second-generation heir, bullying men and women with his family's power. He's just wasting air by being alive. Saying this, she turned her head to look at me. Her tone instantly softened like water. A toad like Wang Chan isn't worthy of a single hair on you, sir. I nodded silently. Feng Ming is exceptionally talented in the soul path. Later, she could even become a mid-stage divine condensation realm expert. But fate is cruel to beauties. She still doesn't know her younger brother died long ago. Yet she's foolishly working for Wang Chan. Meanwhile, Wang Chan on the other side of the screen was already furious, red-faced and thick-necked. He roared, smashing the priceless 9-dragon cup in his hand. He shouted towards the shadows, "7 extremities, sword venerable. Kill that despicable couple for me." A figure slowly emerged from the shadows. It was an old man in gray robes with 7 short swords hanging at his waist. He bowed expressionlessly, accepting the order. Then his figure vanished into nothingness. At that moment, I was sitting under a peach blossom tree, stroking my chin, thinking about the menu for the Empress's birthday banquet. Feng Ming, chin in hands, stared at me with sparkling eyes. Nalanyan Ran stood not far away, holding a sword, looking alert. Suddenly, a gentle breeze blew, scattering peach blossom petals everywhere. The 7 extremities sword venerable appeared silently behind me. 7 short swords left their sheaths simultaneously, bringing a sharp, cold light. I happened to stand up just then, stretching. My blind man's cane swung back casually. It happened to hit the 7 extremities sword venerable's wrist. The 7 short swords clattered to the ground. The 7 extremities sword venerable froze. His century-cultivated 7 extremities killing array was just broken. Like that, I felt my cane hit something. Turning around in confusion, I looked in the sword venerable's direction with empty eyes. Huh? Was someone just here? The sword venerable quickly retreated, cold sweat soaking his back. Was that a coincidence from a blind man just now, or? Gritting his teeth, he pulled a yellowed scroll from his sleeve, preparing to unleash the ultimate killing move of his sword array. 10,000 swords returned. But the scroll was blown away by a gust of wind the moment he took it out. The paper drifted right into my hands. I felt the paper's texture, curiously unfolding it. Though I can't see, I could feel complex patterns drawn on it. Feng Ming leaned over, glanced, and chuckled. What is this mess? The colors are so ugly. Nalanyan Ran also glanced over, coldly commenting. The layout is chaotic, like a 3-year-old scribble. I nodded in deep agreement. Truly tacky. With his taste, no wonder he can only be a villain. Hearing this, the 7 extremities sword venerable trembled with rage, his beard shaking. That picture was his meticulously designed banquet layout. He originally planned to create chaos at the Empress's birthday banquet. Now, it's being looked down upon by these people. He roared, sword energy swirling around him. He transformed into a streak of sword light, thrusting straight forward. I happened to be looking down, studying that blueprint. I inadvertently sidestepped, dodging the fatal blow. The 7 absolute swords Saint couldn't stop in time and crashed into the nearby doghouse. An old dog was napping inside, without a yelp. It angrily crawled out and started barking furiously at the sword saint. Hearing the noise, I asked with concern, "What's wrong, Wang Kai? Is it a rat?" The 7 absolute sword saint crawled out of the doghouse, straw still stuck on his head. He had never suffered such a humiliation. Just as he was about to strike again, he suddenly caught a strange, alluring scent. I, for some reason, now held a bag of premium dog food. I was just about to give some to Wang Kai to calm him down. The sword saint's stomach betrayed him with a loud growl. Irresistible. He had cultivated for a century beyond needing food, but this scent was too tempting. Hearing the sound, I suddenly understood. Oh, we have a guest who hasn't eaten yet. Saying that, I fumbled and grabbed a handful of dog food, offering it. Here, don't be shy, try my special snack. The 7 absolute sword saint looked at the dog food, his face pale, but his body moved on its own, reaching out to take it. He cautiously took a bite, his eyes widening in shock. This contains the essence of the Tao. He completely forgot about his assassination mission. Squatting on the ground, he started wolfing it down. The old dog growled at him, baring its teeth. I quickly grabbed another handful, comforting it. Don't be stingy. Share some with our guest. Feng Ming and Na Ran watched with complicated expressions. This was the fearsome 7 absolute sword saint of the martial world. Now, squatting by a doghouse, fighting over dog food. Just then, footsteps sounded outside the courtyard gate. Empress Mei Dusha walked in gracefully. She had rushed over upon hearing of an assassin's intrusion. Instead, she saw this comical scene. The sword saint sensed the Empress's aura. Terrified, he immediately knelt. Your humble servant greets your majesty. Hearing your majesty, I was startled and realized. So it's your majesty. I failed to welcome you. What is this? Mei Dusha's gaze fell on the blueprint in my hand. I answered honestly, it's a picture I just found. The Empress took the blueprint, glanced at it, and her expression changed slightly. Then she looked at me deeply and suddenly chuckled. This is the banquet layout of the rebels. My dear subject, do you find this picture unappealing? I nodded sincerely and gave my honest evaluation. The color scheme is chaotic, the layout is cluttered, and it lacks any aesthetic appeal. A flicker of amusement flashed in the Empress's eyes. Then she placed high hopes on me for planning her birthday banquet. Feng Ming stifled a giggle beside me. Na Ran expressionlessly looked away. The 7-extremity sword sovereign was still squatting by the doghouse, clutching a half-handful of dog food, unsure whether to eat it or not. After a glance from the Empress, she handed him over to the Imperial Guards for disposal. Several black-clad Imperial Guards appeared soundlessly. They dragged the 7-extremities sword sovereign away. As he was being dragged off, he kept looking longingly at that bag of dog food. I shook my head and sighed. It seems he was genuinely hungry. Mei Dusha walked up to me, speaking in a gentle tone. If you have any needs for the banquet preparations, just say the word. I rubbed my nose, suddenly struck by a brilliant idea. Your Majesty, rest assured, this humble subject will organize a truly unique feast. I guarantee it will leave a lasting impression on everyone. Curiosity sparked in the Empress's eyes, but she didn't inquire further. She trusted this blind man who always brought surprises. After the Empress left, I stared blankly at the blueprint. Feng Ming leaned in and whispered, Sir, how do you plan to prepare? I smiled mysteriously and uttered 4 words. Celestial Realm Spring Gala. Na Ran and Feng Ming were both stunned. I didn't explain further, starting to calculate what we'd need. Lights, sound, stage effects, none could be missing. We'd also need interactive segments and a prize draw. And a few comedy sketches to make everyone laugh would be best. Just thinking about it made me chuckle. This was going to be fun. As for that hideous layout diagram, I casually used it to prop up the teapot. The table leg was a bit wobbly anyway. Waste not, why not? I patted the now-level teapot with satisfaction. The banquet preparations were complete, awaiting only tonight's opening. But my mind was still on that little pink rabbit. I always felt the Empress's spiritual avatar seemed too fragile. Taking advantage of the afternoon leisure, I closed my eyes and activated my pretend-to-be-blind mode, quietly extending my senses towards the Empress's bedchamber, hoping to catch another glimpse of that adorable spiritual rabbit. The little rabbit within the golden light sphere was still hugging its carrot, but this time I noticed its ears drooping weakly. A few faint, murky threads seemed to be coiling around the rabbit's body. These gray threads were slowly eroding the golden light sphere. I frowned. This didn't seem like a normal state. The system chimed in with a timely prompt. Detected high-level, abnormal spiritual energy fluctuations. Analysis result. Old injury not fully healed. Residual cold toxin. Recommendation. Use Netherworld soul-devouring flower as auxiliary treatment. Only then did I remember that spiritual herb I had used up earlier. So the Empress really has internal injuries. No wonder her spiritual projection seems so weak. Opening my eyes, I stroked my chin, deep in thought. Although the soul-devouring flower is all used up, the seed from the system were only planted 3 days ago. But there are other nourishing spiritual herbs in the courtyard. I should be able to brew a remedy to ease the pain. I got up and felt my way toward the small courtyard herb garden. In my blind mode, I can see the flow of spiritual energy even with my eyes closed. In my spiritual sight, each herb glowed with its own unique light. I carefully selected a few young rich plants and added 2 supplementary ingredients to balance the properties. Na Ran saw me squatting by the garden busy. She walked over and asked softly, Master, do you need help? I shook my head, saying I wanted to brew some health tea. She didn't ask further, standing quietly to the side. I carefully washed the chosen herbs, placed them in a pot with spiritual spring water, and simmered it over a low flame. In blind mode, I could see the medicinal properties fusing. Various spiritual energies swirled and intertwined in the pot, gradually condensing into a warm, orange-red glow. As I brewed the medicine, I couldn't help but mutter to myself, how is this girl's constitution worse than mine? So many internal injuries at such a young age. She definitely hasn't been taking care of herself. As soon as the words left my mouth, I heard the courtyard gate creak softly. Empress Meidusha was standing at the entrance. She was in casual attire today, her expression complex. She had clearly heard my earlier muttering. I hurriedly stood up and bowed, a bit flustered. Your Majesty, why are you here? The banquet doesn't start until tonight. The Empress walked slowly into the yard, her gaze falling on the medicine pot. She asked in a flat tone, what are you brewing? I answered honestly, health-preserving medicinal tea. As I spoke, I scooped a bit with a ladle to test the temperature. But the Empress naturally took the ladle. Let me taste it. She brought the liquid to her lips, savoring it carefully. Her cool eyes widened slightly. This prescription, I explained with a smile, it's just some nourishing herbs. Drinking it regularly is good for the body. The Empress set down the ladle, silent for a moment, then said softly, you know, don't you? I play dumb. No what? The Empress looked directly into my eyes, though she knew I couldn't see. That I may do sha. That I have old injuries. That I've deceived you for years. I scratched my head, speaking lightly. All I know is my wife isn't in good health. She needs someone to care for her, to be nursed back to health. The rest doesn't matter. The Empress was stunned. All her prepared words were stuck in her throat. I fumbled and pulled a small paper packet from my robe. Inside were a few amber-colored sugar balls. I made these throat lozenges while brewing medicine earlier. Try them. See if they're sweet enough. I picked one up and naturally held it to her lips. The Empress instinctively opened her mouth, taking the sugar ball. The sweet taste melted on her tongue, with a faint, herbal fragrance. Her cheeks flushed visibly in an instant. The previously serious atmosphere vanished in a flash. I asked with a smile, how's the taste? The Empress, biting the sugar, mumbled an ahm. Those usually authoritative phoenix eyes now held a hint of panic. She seemed about to say something, so I popped another sugar ball in her mouth. Have more, it's good for your throat. The second sugar ball left the Empress speechless. She could only puff out her cheeks and glare at me. But there wasn't a trace of imperial authority left in her gaze. More like a little animal being fed treats. Nalan Ran had quietly retreated to a distance at some point. Her back to us, shoulders trembling slightly. I continued brewing the medicine, my tone casual. Drink a bowl daily from now on. Should be better in 3 months. The Empress swallowed the sugar, asking softly, why are you so kind to me? I answered matter-of-factly, you're my wife. Who else would I be good to if not you? The Empress fell silent again, but I could hear her breathing quicken. In pretend blind mode, I saw that golden orb of light, fluctuating wildly, a pink rabbit tumbling inside, ears standing straight up, clearly agitated. After a long while, the Empress finally whispered, after tonight's banquet, I have something to tell you. All right, I'll wait. She turned and left quickly, her steps a bit unsteady. I kept brewing the medicine, a smile on my lips. This little rabbit is quite shy. Once the medicine was done, I carefully filtered it and poured it into a jade vial. Told Nalanyan Ran to deliver it to the bedchamber, reminding her to take it daily. Nalanyan Ran took the vial, her expression complicated. Master, you really are. She didn't finish, but I understood. I waved my hand, urging her to deliver it quickly. The courtyard fell quiet again. I sat on the stone stool to rest. The system prompt sounded once more. Host has triggered a key emotional event. Task list updated. Please check promptly. I couldn't be bothered to look now. The tasks weren't going anywhere. Instead, I wondered what the Empress would say tonight. Could it be she's really going to confess everything? Truth be told, I'd already guessed most of it, but if she didn't say it, I'd pretend not to know. After all, it was easier to get along this way. The old mutt ambled over and nuzzled my leg. I rubbed its head. Behave yourself at the banquet tonight. You hear? Don't go sneaking food again. The old mutt whined in protest. I laughed and tossed him some kibble. But inside, I was looking forward to tonight's banquet, and what the Empress would say afterward. Whatever she says, life goes on, and it'll get better. Humming, I got up from the stone bench. Nalanyan Ran was back with the medicine, waiting quietly by the gate. I patted my belly, thinking we should celebrate. Let's get some fresh ingredients before the banquet. Yen Ran, come with me to the market. I called inside, Wonkai, you too. The old mutt shot out of his bed, tail wagging excitedly. Nalan Yen Ran softly acknowledged, yes. So, the three of us, man, dog, and sort of mortal, headed out. The capital streets were lively in the afternoon. A mix of vendors' cries and children's laughter. Leaning on my blind man's cane, I strolled along, feeling great. In blind mode, I could sense the flow of spiritual energy around me. People glowed with various auras. Pale white for commoners, faint cyan for low-level cultivators, and occasionally bright clusters for officials. Walking on, I heard a frustrated sigh ahead. It sounded familiar, like Zheng Zhuzhong. I closed my eyes and sensed in that direction. Sure enough, there was this deep purple official aura. It was churning violently around a stone table. Opposite was a lively orange aura belonging to a child. Nalan Yen Ran whispered beside me. The Grand Counselor is playing chess with a street kid. He's lost 3 games in a row. I almost laughed. This Prime Minister's chess skills are terrible. As I approached, I heard Zheng Zhuzhong's stubborn voice. One more game. I don't believe it. The child chirped. You promise, Grandpa? If you lose, you buy me Tong Hulu. I couldn't help but speak up. Having a rough day, old friend? Zheng Zhuzhong turned. Seeing me, His expression became complicated, torn between maintaining dignity and the shame of losing. He finally blurted, "Why don't you give it a try, brother?" I was out to relax, so I agreed with a smile. I sat on the stone stool, closed my eyes, and activated blind mode. The board appeared clearly in my spiritual sight, each piece glowing faintly. I could see the moves and the flow of energy. The child said smugly, "Your turn, blind uncle." Smiling, I felt for a piece and placed it. With that move, the child went huh. In Zhong couldn't help but exclaim, "Brilliant." Now, every move I make seems casual, yet I always block the opponent's key attacks. The child grows more frantic, face flushing red. Finally, as I place the winning piece, the child bursts into tears. "Uncle Blind, you're bullying me." He cries, but still demands his wager. "The candied hawthorn sticks you promised." Zhong, in high spirits, happily pays up. Bye. I'll get you too." The child, tears gone, runs off waving his treats. Zhong turns to me, voice full of awe. "Brother, your skill is divine." I wave it off modestly. "Just luck. Truth is, in blind mode, I see the board just fine." Just then, an official in plain clothes rushes over. He whispers a few words in Zhong's ear. Zhong's face turns grave. He bows to me. "Brother, urgent matters call. We'll play another day." With that, he hurries away. As he turns, I close my eyes and see the note the official handed him pulsing with strange energy, tinged with a faint blood red and the aura of steel. Looks like urgent military news from the border. But that's not my concern for now. I continue with Nalan Ran and the old dog to the market. Nalan Ran walks beside me, softly saying, "Master seems in good spirits today." I smile and nod. "Yes, good weather, good mood." She's quiet a moment, then pulls a small notebook from her sleeve. She quickly scribbles a few words with charcoal. Curious, I ask, "What are you writing?" Nalan Ran, unusually flustered, tucks the book away. "Nothing, just daily notes." In blind mode, I see the notebook's cover, bearing elegant script. Emperor Observation Diary. The latest page reads, "Today, the Emperor smiled like a cat that got the cream, clearly in excellent spirits." I suppress a laugh, pretending not to know. We walk onto our usual vegetable stall. The vendor's an old acquaintance. We last discussed the northern situation. He greets us warmly. "Back for more, sir? Just got fresh spirit vegetables today. I picked some seasonal greens. Then buy a live fish for dinner." As I pay, he leans in, voice hushed. "Sir, heard the rumors? The border's restless." I pause, then reply calmly. "Imperial affairs are beyond us common folk." He chuckles awkwardly. "True enough. We head back with our groceries." Passing a tea house, a storyteller's booming voice echoes from within. It's about how the Empress stabilized the realm after ascending the throne. I paused to listen for a moment. Nalan Ran whispered, "Master, would you like to come in?" I shook my head and said, "It's time to go back and prepare for the banquet." As I turned, several people dressed as Jianghu figures emerged from the tea house. Their hushed conversation made me slow my steps slightly. The northern border troops are moving strangely. There might be trouble. All the factions are gathering for the Empress's birthday banquet. It's the perfect time to strike. Their auras carried a fierce, hostile energy, clearly not good people. Nalan Ran sensed it too, her hand resting on her sword hilt. I shook my head slightly, signaling her not to act. Now is not the time to alert them. The group soon disappeared around the street corner. I memorized the signature of their auras, planning to keep an eye out for similar energy at the banquet. Back at the residence, I started preparing the ingredients. Nalan Ran helped as my assistant. The old dog lay by the kitchen door, drooling. While chopping vegetables, I casually asked, "Yin Ran, do you think tonight's banquet will go smoothly?" Nalan Ran answered seriously, "With you here, Master, it definitely will. You have quite some faith in me, because you always perform miracles, Master." Her words made me blush a little. I quickly changed the subject, saying, "Remember to remind me tonight. The special effect for Her Majesty needs to be triggered on time." Nalan Ran acknowledged and noted it down. When the ingredients were almost ready, Feng Ming hurried back from outside. She had gone for a final inspection of the banquet venue today. As soon as she entered, she said excitedly, "Sir, all the arrangements are perfect. The palace staff are making the final adjustments now." I nodded, acknowledging her hard work. Feng Ming came over, saw the dishes on the counter, and asked with sparkling eyes, "Need my help?" I thought for a moment and asked her to handle the plating. Her aesthetic sense is good. The three of us and the dog worked busily in the kitchen until dusk. By sunset, all preparations were complete. I changed into my new formal attire. Although I'm blind, Nalan Ran said it suited my demeanor well. Even the old dog got a bath, its fur now glossy. Feng Ming changed into a light purple gown on purpose. She looked less alluring and more dignified. Nalan Ran still wore her plain white dress, carrying her sword on her back. As we were about to leave for the banquet, the courtyard gate was gently knocked. Nalan Ran opened the door, then bowed in surprise. "Your Majesty." Empress Mei Dusha stood outside the door. She's in casual clothes, no entourage behind her. I sense her spiritual energy has calmed a bit. Looks like the medicine is starting to work. She says softly, "I happen to be passing by, so I'll join you." I had no objection, so the four of us and the dog headed to Lingxiao Hall. On the way, the Empress walked beside me. Occasionally, she'd gently remind me of steps ahead. I could see fine even in pretend blind mode, of course. But I played along, acting like I needed the help. It felt nice being cared for like that. As we neared Lingxiao Hall, the Empress suddenly spoke. After the banquet tonight, meet me in the Imperial Garden. I nodded, all right. After a pause, she added, there's something I've wanted to say for a long time. I smiled in response. Actually, I have something to say too. She seemed to relax, her steps becoming lighter. Nalan Yanran and Feng Ming followed behind. They exchanged a look. Both saw the amusement in each other's eyes. The old mutt ran ahead, sometimes looking back, waiting for us. The setting sun stretched our shadows long, like a warm, everyday painting. But I knew, beneath this calm, undercurrents were stirring. Regardless, tonight's banquet had to be perfect, because this was my birthday gift to her. I stood in the side hall of Lingxiao Hall, straightening my collar. Nalan Yanran whispered a reminder. Master, it's almost time. I nodded, took a deep breath, and prepared to make my entrance. Suddenly, the system's urgent alert sounded in my mind. Ultimate mission issued. Save the Empress and publicly confess. Mission background. Detected large-scale enemy forces approaching. Enemy leader Wang Chan, with 100,000 rebels, has reached the city gates. Mission requirements. Protect the Empress's safety. Confess publicly after victory. Mission reward. Permanent freedom to switch between open eyes and pretend blind modes. I was stunned. I muttered subconsciously. Is this really saving the Empress? System, don't try to scam me. She could handle this herself. Why drag me into it? As soon as the words left my mouth, a dull horn sounded outside the hall, followed by a guard's panicked shout. Enemy attack. Rebels are storming the city. Chaos instantly erupted in the hall. Guests panicked. Empress Mei Dusha rose from the dragon throne. Her face was calm, but her voice carried authority. Where is the Imperial Guard commander? Commander, Su Motion, step forward. Your servant is here. Protect the court. Repel the enemy. Su Motion saluted, accepted the order, and strode out of the hall. I stood there, feeling a bit helpless. Wang Chan really knows how to pick his moment. He had to come tonight. A perfectly good birthday banquet, ruined just like that. The system's alert sounded again. Detected host entering combat scenario. Temporarily unlocking combat assist functions. Blind mode can switch to battlefield analysis mode. I closed my eyes to activate a new function. The flow of spiritual energy throughout the capital becomes visible. Dense clusters of crimson spiritual energy are approaching outside the city. That's the killing intent of the rebels condensed into form. And within that crimson, there's a mass of spiritual energy, deep and black as ink. It stands out exceptionally. That is Wang Chan's aura, filled with resentment and madness. I open my eyes and say to Nalan Yanran, Yanran, you go protect His Majesty. Nalan Yanran asks with concern, My lord, what about you? I smile and say, I'm going to meet an old friend. Saying this, I walk toward the palace gate, leaning on my blind man's cane. Feng Ming pushes through the crowd and says urgently, Sir, I'll go with you. You stay in the hall and help maintain order. She grits her teeth, but still follows me. We walk out onto the square outside the hall. The sounds of fighting and killing come from the direction of the distant city wall. Su Motion has already commanded the Imperial Guards to set up defenses, but the rebels are numerous and have cultivators aiding. The battle situation is not optimistic. I close my eyes and use blind mode to observe the battlefield. I quickly discover the problem. Hidden among the rebels are several cultivators with powerful spiritual power. They are jointly performing some kind of disruptive formation, causing the defending soldiers to become unsettled and their combat strength to greatly diminish. I say to Feng Ming, do you see those ones in gray robes? Feng Ming looks in the direction I point. She sees 3 cultivators hiding behind the rebel forces. She nods and asks, should I go deal with them? I shake my head and say, no need, I'll handle it myself. Saying this, I pull out that bronze bell from my sleeve. I gently shake it, and the bell emits a clear, crisp sound. The sound, amplified by spiritual energy, spreads across the battlefield. It precisely interrupts the spell casting of those 3 cultivators. They look up in shock. I close my eyes and lock onto their positions. Then I make a simple move, raise my hand and snap my fingers. In blind mode, I see 3 strands of sword energy, shooting from my fingertips, accurately hitting the dantians of those 3 cultivators. They scream and fall to the ground, unable to get up. The formation is broken, and the defenders' morale soars. Su Motion seizes the moment to launch a counterattack, but the number of rebels is truly too great. Multiple sections of the city wall are damaged. Wang Chan's figure appears on the city gate tower. He laughs maniacally and shouts, Meidu Sha, today is your day to die. The Empress has also come to the square at some point. She stands beside me and says calmly, My dear minister, do you have a good strategy to repel the enemy? Before I can answer, the system suddenly prompts. Detected that the host can borrow from blind mode. Guide the city's spiritual energy to construct a defensive barrier. Coordinate with the spiritual nodes set up for the birthday banquet. My eyes lit up. That's a great idea. I immediately closed my eyes, fully activating my blind mode. The spiritual nodes of the entire capital lit up in my vision. The light arrays set up for the banquet now became the best foundation for defense. I guided all the spiritual energy to converge at the city walls, forming a transparent barrier outside the city. The rebels' attacks struck the barrier, only creating ripples, unable to break through. Seeing this, Wang Chan was furious. He bit his tongue, spitting out a mouthful of vital blood, and performed a secret technique to forcibly boost his cultivation. The black spiritual energy instantly expanded several times, showing signs of potentially breaking the barrier. I frowned. This guy's really going all out. Just as I was thinking how to respond, the old mutt suddenly darted out from beside my feet. It ran to the center of the square and howled at the sky. That howl wasn't a dog's bark, but a majestic beast's roar. Under everyone's astonished gazes, the old mutt's body began to glow and expand. In an instant, it transformed into a 30-foot-tall golden beast. The beast had 2 horns, scales covering its body, and hooves treading on blazing flames. This was the true form of the blazing sky Qilin. It glanced at me and spoke in human tongue. "Kid, leave the barrier to me to maintain. You go deal with that clown." I was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said okay. The divine beast raised its head and shot out a golden beam. The beam infused the barrier, making it even more solid. Wang Chan's attacks could no longer shake it in the slightest. At the same time, Mao Yin also made her move. She drew her sword, its intent soaring into the sky. Her whole body transformed into a stream of blue light, dashing through the rebel ranks, enemies falling like wheat where she passed. Zheng Zhuzhong popped up from nowhere. He held an account book and shouted loudly, "Wang Chan, the provisions you hoarded have been intercepted by me. The families of your generals are also under my control. Surrender now." These words were extremely damaging. Commotion immediately broke out among the rebels. Many soldiers began to hesitate and retreat. Seeing this, Wang Chan went completely mad. He roared, leapt down from the city tower, and charged straight at the Empress's position. I sighed, knowing it was my turn to act. I closed my eyes and activated my blind mode. Wang Chan's every movement slowed down in my eyes. There were 13 spiritual energy circulation nodes on his body. Destroy just 3 of them, and he would lose all his cultivation. I walked forward, leaning on my blind man's cane, as if casually, and positioned myself right in Wang Chan's path. He grinned and swung his blade, channeling all his power into the strike. I sidestepped, tapping out with my blind cane. First tap, his wrist's energy node. The blade flew from his hand. Second tap, his Dantian node. His energy froze. Third tap, the point between his brows. Wang Chan froze, disbelief flooding his eyes. "You how?" I calmly retracted my cane, saying, "You're no good at chess, no good at war, and a complete mess as a person." He opened his mouth to speak, but collapsed unconscious. With their leader captured, the rebels scattered instantly. The Imperial Guards pressed the advantage, quickly controlling the situation. The fight from start to finish took less than half an hour. I dropped the blind act and opened my eyes. Though darkness still filled my vision, I could hear the cheers around me. Suma Xuan strode over, clapping my shoulder hard. "Brother, you're something else." I staggered from the blow, smiling wryly. "Easy, this old body can't take much." The Empress walked up to me, whispering, "Thank you." I scratched my head, embarrassed. "No need, it's what I should do." The system prompt chimed right then. Empress's crisis detected as resolved. Mission completion, 80%. Host, please complete the public confession promptly. My lip twitched. This system was a real nag. But now was a good time. All eyes were on us here. I took a deep breath and turned toward the Empress. Though I couldn't see, I could sense her position. "Your Majesty, this subject has something to say." I cleared my throat, a bit nervous. The surroundings fell silent. Everyone looked our way. Empress Maidusha responded softly, "Speak, my loyal subject." The system screamed in my mind, "Say it, say it." I took another breath, speaking quietly but clearly. "Your Majesty, could the subject also serve as your imperial consort?" A collective gasp swept the hall. I hurriedly added, "Mainly, I want to cook for you legally for a lifetime." Saying it out loud, even I felt a bit silly, but it was the truth. The Empress was silent for a long moment. I thought she was angry. Then I heard her voice, laced with laughter, and a hint of tears. Granted, 2 simple words, heavy as a mountain. The hall was dead quiet, then erupted in cheers. Suma Xuan was the first to shout, "Congratulations, Your Majesty! Congratulations, Imperial Consort!" Zheng Zhuzhong stroked his beard, smiling. 2 happy events at once. Nailin Yinran whispered beside me, "Master, congratulations." Feng Ming clapped happily. The old dog returned to its original form and crouched nearby, muttering in a voice only I could hear. Finally said it. "I was getting anxious for you." The system prompt sounded at the right moment. "Congratulations, host, on completing the public confession. All ultimate tasks completed. Rewards being distributed. Achievement unlocked. Low-key ascension to sainthood. Reward, Permanent skill, open eyes to play blind mode. Freely switch between open and closed eye states. Skill effect. When eyes are open, see the real world, while retaining spiritual vision ability. When eyes are closed, restore all functions of the original blind mode. I was stunned for a moment. This skill sounds good. Trying to silently think, open eyes. The world that had been dark for 18 years was instantly filled with light. I saw the majestic Lingxiao Palace. Saw the smiling faces around me. Saw the Empress's slightly red phoenix eyes. Today she wore a golden dress, breathtakingly beautiful. Tears still hung at the corners of her eyes, not yet dried. I also saw Nalan Yinran's cool face with a faint smile. Feng Ming was excitedly talking to the person next to her. Zheng Juzhong and Su Moshuan were congratulating each other. The old dog crouched on the ground, tail wagging like a fan. Everyone was enveloped in colorful, spiritual light halos. Real scenery overlapped with spiritual vision, giving me an unreal sense of dizziness. Seeing me open my eyes, the Empress covered her mouth in surprise. Your eyes. I smiled and nodded, then shook my head. Can see now, but might close them again. She seemed to understand something and smiled brightly. Either way, it's a good thing. I looked around, memorizing everyone's appearance in my heart, then silently closed my eyes. The world returned to darkness, but clearer. Being blind is more comfortable. Used to darkness, suddenly seeing too much is dazzling. I muttered softly. The Empress chuckled. As you wish. Su Moshuan came over and said loudly, tonight we must drink until we drop. Celebration banquet and wedding feast together. Zheng Juzhong rarely agreed. Should celebrate indeed. Thus began a hasty yet grand banquet. Palace servants quickly rearranged the venue. Fallen soldiers were properly arranged. Rebel prisoners were escorted to prison. Wang Chan's cultivation was abolished. Imprisoned alone, awaiting trial. At the banquet, I sat beside the Empress. Though eyes were closed, could perceive everything. Officials took turns coming forward to toast and congratulate. I responded to each with tea instead of wine. Feng Ming quietly sat down beside me and whispered, Sir, can you really see now? I nodded, then shook my head. I can see, but I'd rather not. She made an understanding sound. Then she happily said, Then I don't have to act lady-like anymore. I chuckled. So you've been pretending all along. Nalan Yinran walked over with a wine cup and said softly, My lord, I offer you a toast. I took the cup and drank it all. She hesitated, then asked, Do you want to see the diary? I quickly waved my hand. No need. You keep it. She visibly relaxed. The old dog wandered over and nuzzled my hand with its head. I patted its head and asked why not change back. It grumbled. Changing back is too conspicuous. Being a dog is more comfortable, mainly because the dog food I make is so delicious. I smiled and grabbed a handful of special dog food to feed it. The Empress leaned her head closer and whispered, Thank you for everything today. I shook my head. I should thank you for letting me freeload for a lifetime. She chuckled. Then the Imperial Kitchen is yours from now on. I thumped my chest. No problem. The banquet lasted until late at night before everyone gradually dispersed. The Empress also had to return to the palace to handle post-war matters. As we parted, she whispered, Let's postpone our garden date. I agreed. It was already early morning when I returned to the estate. Nalan Yin ran helped me into the room, then withdrew. I sat alone on the stone stool in the courtyard, trying to open my eyes again. The courtyard under the moonlight was peaceful and beautiful. Those spirit herbs emitted a faint glow in the night. I saw the world I could only sense before, real and vibrant, but it really was too bright. I closed my eyes, and the familiar darkness returned. It was richer and clearer than before. The system spoke up then. Host, are you satisfied with the final reward? I asked it back. Did you know this would happen all along? The system was silent for a moment before replying. This system exists only to help the host find the most suitable path. Now that the path is found, the system will enter a silent state. It can be awakened any time if needed. I nodded and said thanks. I don't know if it understood, but the gratitude was real. Life seemed to return to normal the next day, yet everything was different. I went to the Imperial Kitchen daily to develop new dishes. When the Empress reviewed memorials, I sat beside her to keep her company, occasionally using my blind mode to look at her spiritual little rabbit. That little rabbit is now healthy and lively. The dark threads have long since vanished. Nalan Yin, Ran continued as my garden maid, though now the entire capital knows. She is by the Emperor's side, and no one dares slight her. Feng Ming was formally transferred to the Ministry of Rites, responsible for preparing our grand wedding ceremony. She threw herself into it, thriving and enjoying it immensely. Zheng Juzhong and Su Moshuan often drop by. One comes to play chess, the other to drink with me. Though I always keep my eyes closed, they don't mind at all. The old mutt is still the old mutt, eating and sleeping all day. Occasionally, Su Moshuan teases him, making him bare his teeth in anger. But he never reverts to his true form, saying he's happier as a dog. A month later, the Empress officially decreed, bestowing upon me the title of Ping Tian Emperor, to rule the realm with her. When the decree was read, I was in the kitchen making soup. The eunuch found me as I was tasting the soup for salt. After receiving the decree, I went back to making soup, leaving the eunuch dumbfounded. The grand wedding ceremony is set for 3 months later. Feng Ming is swamped, barely touching the ground. Nalan Yinran was also dragged in to help. I, on the other hand, became the idlest one. Every day, all I do is cook and walk the dog. Occasionally, I show my face at court assemblies, using my blind mode to see which officials have ill intentions, then casually expose them, making them break out in a cold sweat. Time passed peacefully like this, until one day, the Empress asked me in the Imperial study, "Don't anyone know what I was going to say that night?" I was peeling an orange for her, and casually replied, "You'll tell me when you want to." She fell silent for a moment, then spoke softly. "Actually, I've known all along you weren't really blind. I just didn't know what you could see. I also know about the system, because I have a similar one. But it's called the Emperor's cultivation system. Its tasks are about how to be a good emperor." My hand paused while peeling the orange. "So we're colleagues." She nodded, then shook her head. "Your system is more humane than mine. My system only issues statecraft tasks, and punishes me for poor performance." Smiling, I handed her the orange. "Then from now on, I'll help you with your tasks." She took the orange, her face brightening with a smile, and said, "Okay." A few more days passed, and Nalan Yinran came to see me. She handed me a bound booklet. "Master, this is a copy of the diary. I thought you might like to see it." I took the booklet and opened it to the first page. It recorded my thoughts from the first time I taught her swordsmanship. Flipping through, it was filled with bits and pieces of records. How I cook, how I walk the dog, how I talk to people. In her writing, I'm like an all-powerful fool, always with closed eyes. It seemed clearer than anyone. I closed the booklet and returned it to her. "It's vividly written, but don't write it next time." She nodded, her face red. Feng Ming's younger brother finally had news. We found a child from back then. He was alive, adopted by a farming family. Now he's a strong young man. Feng Ming cried her eyes out when she saw her brother. The young man, though a stranger, was willing to acknowledge this sister. I helped them settle down in the capital. Feng Ming worked even harder and more diligently. One day, while playing chess, Zhengzhu Zhong suddenly said, "The border threat is gone, thanks to your timely warning, brother." Only then did I remember that bloodstained note I saw on the street that day. So he had been prepared all along. That's how he turned the tide. Su Emotion then told me Wang Chan went mad in prison, muttering impossible, impossible all day. I just shook my head. If he knew this would happen, why'd he do it? The day of the grand wedding, the whole city celebrated. I wore the emperor's robes. The empress wore her phoenix crown and ceremonial attire. We stood side by side, accepting the homage of the people. She whispered to me, "Nervous? A bit. I'm more nervous than you." After the ceremony, we returned to the palace. She took off her phoenix crown and said softly, "This journey feels like a dream." My eyes were closed, but I could sense her expression. So I answered seriously, "It's not a dream, it's reality. And it will last forever." She leaned on my shoulder and hummed in agreement. Outside the window, the full moon hung high, the starry river brilliant. Life went on like this. I got up early every morning to make breakfast. When the Empress went to court, I'd walk the dog in the Imperial Garden. Occasionally, I'd give Nalan Yinran pointers on her swordsmanship. Though I don't use a sword, I could spot her flaws. Feng Ming often came to report on wedding follow-ups. The wedding was over. She just found excuses to come play. Zhengzhu Zhong and Su Emotion still visited often. One always lost at chess, the other always got drunk. Then they'd leave, complaining about each other. The old dog recently fell in love with chasing butterflies. With its cultivation, it could catch one with a swipe of its paw. But it insisted on pouncing like a normal dog. It said it was experiencing life. I often opened my eyes to look at this world, then quickly closed them. Because while light is good, darkness makes me feel more at ease. Besides, in my pretending to be blind mode, I could see the truer essence. The flow of spiritual energy, the warmth and coldness of human feelings, clearer than what the naked eye sees. The Empress's health fully recovered. Her cold ailment never flared up again. When she handled state affairs, I'd make tea beside her, occasionally offering suggestions. Mostly bad ideas, but she always considered them seriously. We accompanied each other like this, passing one ordinary day after another. Until one day, eyes closed feeding the dog, the Empress leaned against me reviewing memorials. Nalan Yinran practiced swordplay in the distance. Zhengzhu Zhong and Su Emotion were arguing again, this time about whether to prioritize water conservancy or city defenses. Listening to these sounds, I suddenly felt utterly content. In this life, whether my eyes are open or not, it's already full of light.